Just before recording this, I just had the weirdest experience I've ever had in this game. Joined into a game, and within 3 seconds, the very first message out of one of my teammates' mouth was criticizing another player for having low OS and obviously not knowing what they were doing. It was bizarre. So I guess I'm going to start this cast by saying I hope you all have a fabulous day, or have had a fabulous day, and are having a better start to your games than that. As we jump into a match of Beyond All Reason on everybody's favorite map, It's All That Glitters. Well, maybe second favorite. I feel like this map has to come behind Supreme Isthmus. If Supreme Isthmus is the gold standard, then I feel like All That Glitters is the silver standard. Ironically enough, with all these golden metal nodes all over the place right here. Yeah, it's a popular map, so I feel like it doesn't really need an introduction. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into our commander count. Today, our blue team leader is an Armada commander. It's going to be none other than Kaskorian. Kaskorian at 28 open skill here. Going to be showing us what they've got here. Definitely in the lower rank lobbies today. So we're going to be having a good time enjoying what is likely to be a, well, it was interesting because it's a shorter cast, or a shorter replay file. So I was curious to see. Usually the lower rank games, they tend to go a little bit longer, so I'm curious why this one was as short as it is. Spawning on the other side, spawning as the red commander, as an armed commander, and going into air here, it's going to be Avenger K. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Armed commander in the air is an interesting choice for the obvious reason that Armada does not have the Shuriken. The Shuriken is a super powerful tool, especially on maps that are big and open and have tons of run-by paths and plenty of mexes all over the place. It really does make a lot of sense to go for those Shuriken because you can shut down those run-bys really, really nicely. But hey, maybe Avenger K has some sort of plan worked out here in order to take advantage of those T2 planes. Yeah, it's really the only advantage Armada has in the air, so it must be what Avenger K is hoping for. I suppose you also get those cheaper Armada wind turbines. Is that really enough of a benefit in the air, though? I don't really think so. We'll see. Already onto the map, it looks like we do have some ticks running across the battlefield. We also have a couple of yellow rovers, red rovers, heading on overs from Memwards, the yellow commander at 17 open skill, and going to be showing us what they've got. 17 open skill and bronze chevrons. I feel like I should explain this. I don't know. Maybe I'm still sour over that nasty experience I just had. But the chevron count is another indicator of how experienced someone is at the game. So the open skill, not necessarily the only indicator of how good someone is, quote unquote good someone is at this game. That is obviously one of the empirical measurements, but the other is the chevron count here. And obviously, as those chevrons go upwards, so too does the experience level. But I believe it's like a logarithmic scale. So the first is like 10 hours, then 100 hours, then 1,000 hours, and then like 5,000 hours or something like that. That is not accurate. You can go look it up on the bar website, but that's more or less how it works, right? So more chevrons, exponentially more time spent in the game. And big spenders in the game, people that have spent a ridiculous amount of time in the game, will have something like this, the silver bars, which is currently my tag. Yeah, I haven't won any of those tournaments quite yet, so I haven't earned the tournament winner's tag, but I'm excited, at the very least, to have my silver tags after a good long while of enjoying Beyond All Reason. Nice bit of damage done right here by the ticks that are moving across the map right here. Very, very good. Some of those cyan ticks from good form. Yeah, some good form indeed. Manages to kill a couple of those mexes here, sniping them as we run by them and trying to take as little damage on those ticks as possible. Ooh, eventually a couple of them will go down, but at least for the time being, that is still 3 mexes down for 4 ticks. And it looks like we will be able to do a little bit more damage. Yeah, nicely done. Yeah, taking the backline and no response. We had the mace available. It just kept marching, apparently. Oh, no. Okay, well, the orange commander Soycer, the, 16 open skill hero in orange right here, starts up the construction turret instead of dealing with the tick right here. 2 ticks out of this lab, or a pawn, or anything really to deal with this would be ideal, but instead, we're going to go ahead and reclaim with the construction bot. Okay. Unique problems require unique solutions, and there we go. At the very least, means that the back line was noticed here. Maybe the golden lining on the back of a very wonderful start right there for the Cyan Commander, who definitely got a lot more value there than probably expected. And nicely done here from her Seafirm Green Commander as well. Melchion manages to get some ticks into the back line and pop a couple of those metal extractors, but more importantly, one of those construction turrets. They're 210 metal apiece, but more importantly, in the early game, 3,200 energy. Very, very energy expensive in the early game, so killing one of those is a huge, huge boon to the economy, or rather to the start here for these, to the start here for these commanders on the front, who don't have to deal with as much production from the enemy here. 10TB, the powder blue commander, setting up a little bit of an LLT defense on the front line, trying to get those metal extractors secured and make sure that the economy is booming. I will say, an aggressive start from the red team. It does mean that they're expanding nicely, and it means that a lot of their bases it is expanded. Their metal economy is looking fabulous, but of course that also comes with the caveat that as more and more of this damage is done in the backline, there's also more surface area for damage to be done, right? More expansion means more area on the map, means more opportunities for ticks and other pests to roam your backline and tear down your metal extractors. At the end of the day, though, it is the right move building those mexes. You just gotta try to keep them clean as possible anyways. Couple of shell shockers firing away right here from Motopad, the pink commander, as, yeah, it looks like we are going to have ourselves a good old-fashioned LLT battle. Oh, what a funny circumstance. Okay, so this happens once in a blue moon. The Cortex LLT, I believe it has a range of, 435 versus the Armada one with a range of 430. So technically speaking, by a difference of a range of 5, the Cortex LLT technically beats the Guard, and it's very rare that this does come up. But at least in this certain circumstance, you can see this Guard is actually able to shoot at the ARM LLT without the ARM LLT actually able to fire back. Luckily, though, again, these shell shockers doing a great job of blasting down the static defenses right here for the green commander and opening up this little choke point here quite nicely. Tib Sun. I just realized this is Tiberian Sun. Command and Conquer, one of the first RTS games that I ever played. Like, as a child, I was playing some of those Command and Conquer games, and I remember it was very, very fun. I'm trying to remember what the... I don't think it was the first Command & Conquer game I ever played, but definitely the one that I played the most of had to have been Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars. Yeah, very fun game. I always loved the design of the Skrin from that game, the alien species of that game. Super, super cool. What are we looking like on the front line here? It looks like WQE is setting up a little bit of a frontline defensive position. One of those things that's been changing recently, a little change to the meta that I've noticed, is a lot of commanders taking advantage of these walls. Not particularly with static defenses, they're too tall to be able to take advantage of the walls, but what you can do is put units that fire in an arcing projectile behind the walls, and it can spare you from harassment from specifically rocket units. Yeah, so if you're going up against a bot commander, you might consider building some of those walls in front of your tanks or in front of your Janus launchers, or in one unit that can take huge advantage of them. And it spares you from the barrage of those rockets really, really nicely. Mimwards is in a great position for that, for instance. And I think it's cool to see. It means that people are starting to become comfortable using the tools that they have. Hey, there you go. You can see those walls absorbing some of those rocket shots right here. When you're close to the walls, you can actually fire over them. But when you're far away from the walls, the rocket dips a little bit, and so it collides with the wall. It's a really cool strategic use case for those walls, which oftentimes, I'll be honest, we don't see very much use from. Gypsy Gorn and Pilorama, though, the maroon and hot pink commanders, both trying to hold this lane on the left-hand side. Good to see that we're going ahead and going for a T2 lab right here. I think this is actually the right move. We need to stop aggravator production, but otherwise I think this is the right move. You know that the enemy is just building up static defenses on this side. You may as well just go ahead and spend your metal on the T2 lab. Gain attack advantage where you can when you already have units on the front. These pawns are looking for a kill, though. Yeah, loads of rocket bots here, but not necessarily anything in front to absorb that. No thugs, no grunts, no pawns. Nothing right now, and it will mean at least two of those rocket bots go down. Maybe one of those rocket bots goes down. Okay, probably could have been a little more aggressive with those, but I can understand the powder blue commander without any statics on the front line, save for a couple of LLTs, a little bit concerned about the potential run-by of any of those enemy units that might be moving in there. Toxic Waste, the purple commander with a hilarious name right here, going to be forced backwards as those shell shockers demonstrate why static defenses fall off so quickly. Even the T1 static defenses are susceptible to just the cheapest tier 1est of artillery pieces here coming out of the vehicle lab. Both factions rather have access to one of these, by the way. The Armada one, the shell shocker, and the core one, the Wolverine, I believe. A very useful tool, one used to crack defenses all around the place, and you can see the green commander also losing some ground here as well. Looks like an HLT actually was set up right here, which is very neat. If you're fighting into a bot commander, an HLT is always a worthwhile consideration. Those HLTs put up a really decent fight against those rocket bots. They basically nullify any of their push, and if you complement it with a little bit of those lightning or fire towers, they can be really, really effective at shutting down enemy presence. You can see blasting away for just miles at a bunch of these aggravators here, and as long as you measure out the distances correctly, it can cover a gigantic swath of area and be really useful. A gigantic strategic tool. T2 lab about halfway through for the Maroon Commander. It looks like we already have T2 up and running for the Tan Commander. That's a fairly standard T2 timing. We're about 3 minutes into this T2 production. You can see we've got the Amexes coming up and running right here, all latched onto different constructors. This is one way to do it. The other would, of course, be doing these one by one. It gets the mexes up, so it's a little bit more metal efficient, but it means your constructor can only be in one place at once, right? So you have to kind of keep it moving around. So this is oftentimes a popular strategy just to make sure that there's always some sort of progress being made in your economic line. But here we go. We've hit that weird thing that happens in RTS games, especially in Beyond All Reason, but in other team-based RTS games as well, where if you pork up hard enough, all the units for your teammate or all the units for your team, rather, that would be fighting against you, just kind of move over and go attack your teammate. It can become a really big issue, I would say, for some of the commanders to deal with, because obviously fighting 2 versus 1 is never ideal, but especially if you're not ready for it and suddenly an entire new army appears on your horizon, and especially we've seen in some cases where a commander isn't paying attention to that army moving around, not sending reinforcements. In this case, not the case. Melchion doing a great job of sending reinforcements to kind of cover this edge of this mountainside right here. But I've certainly seen it plenty of times, time and time again, where reinforcements aren't allocated, and suddenly you end up in a really awful situation where you're now fighting 2 armies at the same time, and that means you lose really inefficiently. By the time that your teammate notices that they take a fight against 2 armies really inefficiently, both of you lose your army, and they lose practically nothing. Gigantic use of gauntlets all over the place here in the midsection, by the way. The green commander using a gauntlet. It looks like Melchion, the Seafoam green commander, has also built a gauntlet. It looks like we have a fusion reactor coming up and running, or already up and running, actually, for the Cyan commander. Interesting that we have a fusion, but we still have the T2 lab as well. Typically, you would eat that T2 lab in order to pay for the fusion just to get it up a little bit quicker. I suppose with the T2 economy, you don't really need it all too much, though, and Armada always has that energy edge over Cortex just because of how cheap their wind turbines are. And any map that has any amount of wind speed, they're going to have a nice little energy advantage in the early game, just based solely on those wind turbines. Cortex takes over that energy advantage into the late game as their cheaper energy production infrastructure does help out quite a lot. The Aphis and the fusion reactors are both slightly cheaper for the Cortex faction. Not monstrously cheaper, but cheaper in the energy, which means that they're a little bit easier to get up and running without having a giant energy economy in place. Janus missiles firing away right here, trying to get as much damage as possible. We've got a couple of those missile trucks up and running as well. HLT blasting away at a whole bunch of these Rocketeers too, and it looks like, oh yeah, maybe not paying attention here. Cypher on the front line. Give me a corpse. Some of you will understand what that voice line means. Losing a bunch of Rocketeers. I'd love to see these reclaimed, at the very least, trying to reclaim these with maybe a construction turret to reach out to the distance and claim these, or at the very least, maybe trying to get a Resbot out there to eat up some of those corpses. But those Mauser are putting in the work. Very, very nicely done. Those heavy, what are they called? Heavy, well, just mobile artillery, I guess. I would consider them heavy. They fire a really dense projectile that's very, very good for popping, especially T1, but basically anything that's clumped up is going to suffer a really, really efficient death. I will say, though, the gauntlets here are trying their best. A gauntlet with a range of 1220 versus the Mauser's range of 820, so quite pathetic in the face of the gauntlet, the Mauser is. Never thought I'd say those words in that order, but it is the truth as far as the ranges are concerned anyway. Obviously, though, the Mauser are extremely cheap, and you can produce tons and tons of them for really low cost. It means that you can overwhelm gauntlets pretty easily, actually. Mauser are a very, very useful tool on the fronts, especially if you're winning a fight already, or if you're as a tech player and you're looking for something cheap to put on the front lines to really help out your teammates. Yeah, those mobile artillery trucks can be very, very useful to pump out and just send across the battlefield to just bust down T1 static defenses or cut down any of those T1 units. It'll be Mass Centurion here for the Orange Commander. Centurion Mace, actually a really great combo. The Centurion in the front can soak a ton of damage, and the Maces obviously fire a plasma projectile that does a decent burst. I will say fighting under the static defenses of the enemy, maybe not the best idea here, but all said and done, it doesn't really matter. This green army already weakened from the engagement up north here, now being pushed inwards by the forces of orange that are leaking through this side. Powder Blue Commander needs a reaction. There we go. Some pawns are pulled in order to deal with this, but we have those anti-swarm bots mixed into the composition. I just don't think it's going to be enough. T2 Laboratory started up here. That's where all the metal is going right now. We need to stop that T2 Lab, finish up the T2 mechs, and start pumping units. Ideally pawns in order to shut this down, but hey, Shuriken gonna make a decent effort. Uh-oh. The Shuriken are actually dumb firing on the ground right here. That's a bit of an issue. You want to fight Command Shuriken, always. You always want to fight Command Shuriken. The only exception is with Navy. Typically, in a Navy battle, what you want to do with Shuriken is actually attack command. You want to select the Shuriken, pretend I have a Shuriken selected, left-click on the ground, left-click on the ground, and drag a big circle like that. That'll target the units one by one, and because boats are so gigantic, they're fairly EMP resistant. It means that you need something. Ugh. Yeah, Green Base now suddenly jumped on by a bunch of orange forces. Wind turbines chain reacting. To finish that thought about the boats, they just have a lot of HP and they're difficult to stun, so you want to make sure you jump on top of them one by one. Purple forces coming across to try and shut this down, but giving up so many units to delay this push that has already done tons and tons of damage. That is effectively one commander down right here. We do have Green Rocketeers retreating, but Those maces are pretty quick, and they're quick enough at the very least to get into the backline. A couple of blitzes pumped out here by the blue commander. Nicely done. Just getting anything on the field that can attack these units going to be necessary. So many wind turbines clumped up right there. Whoa, seeing those clumped up wind turbines is really scary. Obviously, clumped up wind turbines are chain reactive. If you build them 3 wide or more, they're chain reactive. You need to spread them out, and you do that by just selecting your constructor and holding Shift, Alt to build a square, and then you hit Z as in Zulu or X as in xylophone. That'll space out or de-space out those constructions. But alright, 4,000 metal left on the front line here, largely in part due to these gauntlets. About half of that metal in gauntlets. Big old T1 army still available here from Memords, the yellow commander here. And going for more. Yeah, it's just good old-fashioned medium tanks. I don't know if I even hate that. That's actually a decent way of spending that T2 economy. Obviously, with 4x the income means 4x the medium tanks. And that can be a really powerful tool. Oh, there's a gunslinger out already. Okay, well, gunslinger should definitely be getting some value here, trying to take down LLTs. The gunslinger repairs itself, so fighting LLTs and getting scuffed up and then backing off to repair is a really easy way of leveling it up and getting it very, very popular. Nuclear missile is launched, though. The blue commander fires away that thermonuclear bomb, and away it goes. I want to see that missile. Missile is inbound. And targeted directly towards the Hot Pink Commander. Boom goes the base of the Hot Pink Commander as that nuke manages to land right in the back line, giving hope to the blue team that suddenly there's a pathway. A couple of bombers sneaking around the side. Whoa. They're unmicroed, though. That's weird. Why would we send these bombers but then not micro them? The target was right here. Not sure if those were sent maybe a lot earlier and had sort of been forgotten about. Maybe it was kind of a, you know, forgot to do something about it sort of a situation. But either way, there those bombers accidentally being shot down over on the right-hand side. It was only 3 T1 bombers, so not the end of the world, of course, but just a little bit odd that they made it so far, only to do so little. Now the tanks roll through. And honestly, these tanks have been waiting a long time to do this. These tanks probably could have blasted through here a lot quicker. But there they go, firing forward and blasting down all of the single LLT static defense right here from Toxic Waste. The purple German commander right there. Who is German according to this flag, but probably you could have told just by the accent there on the name. Hilariously. Beautiful chain reaction of wind turbines. You gotta love it. Geothermal pops as well, though Shuriken trying to paralyze all this, but man, these run-bys have been so dangerous. I love the aggression here from the red team, trying to make stuff work, doing their very best to make sure that there's opportunities all over the place. A couple of blue tanks leaking through. Uh-oh. Yeah, blue tanks actually finding their mark right here. Managing to punch through the line and find an opening directly towards the orange base. There is T2 available for the orange commander. He could build some of those welders or sprinters or anything really to try and deal with these, but the tanks have already hit the backlines. Well, okay. Lightning tanks now blasting down whatever they can. Oh, build power in trouble. Build power does pop, and that's going to be the orange commander effectively taken out of the production game for a little while here. Taking down those cons would be ideal as well. Means that you can't really get back into the production game. Ooh, bombers trying their very best. Manages to get one of them, surprisingly. Bombers are fairly bad at killing lightning tanks because of how fast they are, obviously. Oh, they're pretty good at friendly firing, though. Oh, no, that's a nuclear bomb, by the way. Saw the gamma of the explosion. That's the nuclear warhead connecting with the left-hand side. No nuke was thrown up, oddly enough. Okay. Yeah, with no nuclear bomb or no anti-nuclear bomb to shut down the nukes headed across from the blue team. Sure. Don't call it a comeback, ladies and gentlemen, but with 2 gigantic nuclear missiles and with T2 economy just barely finished, it means that Gypsy Gorn and Pilorama did not actually have the economy build up to rebuild themselves. So right now this is a really precarious state. Gunships in the air and no anti-air, of course, in this composition, because whoever includes anti-air in their offensive pushes, only the best of the best do I ever see consistently include any amount of anti-air in their push. The D-gun of the century. Oh, but no energy! Oh no, Gypsy Gorn is out of energy, and it means the pawns get a perfect surround. Well, some semi-perfect surround. We need to split these up a little bit. Gypsy Gorn actually with a lot of time to do something about that, but nowhere near enough energy to. Does go down to swarm of pawns. We probably realistically needed 3 pawns there, 5 pawns maybe at the max. Instead, we accidentally overkilled quite significantly. Big old T1 push with the T2. It's great, and it's obviously helped by the fact that there's so many. Those nuclear bombs were basically perfect, taking out both the economies in the backline here. But my goodness, these T1 units would have been way more efficient as just a couple of T2. Maybe even a Manticore to shoot down some of the air units rather than relying on the fighter to send units over on that side. I'm just saying. There it is. Heard the bombers. Big old bombing run directly into the backline. Wow. Well, alright. Talk about an equalization. Suddenly the right-hand side has gone as well. Both of the lanes caving at the exact same moment. With the gunships firing down on the T1 units, though, I think this is going to mostly be cleaned up nicely. But this push looks basically unstoppable. Those medium tanks are rolling forward, and there's no reason for them to stop. They are stopped, but there's no reason for them to. Starlight, no, pardon me, Pulsar, firing away here as well. Basically the last thing remaining for Flashman, the Lavender commander here, who will go back into air. A couple of AA trucks pumped out here. In fact, quite a lot of AA trucks pumped out by the blue commander. I love to see it, actually. Those AA trucks can be really useful. They're basically the perfect anti-air defense. You scatter those around all over the place, and they make it very, very difficult for any amount of anything to punch through the air defenses, the air wall. They do a huge amount of damage, they're fairly accurate, and they fire really, really fast. They're far and away the pinnacle for mobile artillery cover. Mobile anti-air cover, rather. What a funky kind of battle we got going on here. Yeah, we've got rolling bombs now coming out of the orange lab for some reason. Feels like a bit of an odd decision, but alright, we'll roll with it. Pun well intended. What a crazy bundle of Janices right here. It's going to be difficult for anything to really get too close to that, but there we go. I mean, a couple of D-guns from Flashman managed to blast those apart. Nicely done. And now we have the Pulsar firing away into the distance, cutting apart those units that are aggressing right there. Very nicely done. The Brown Commander holding firm, setting up a big old static defense wall and making sure that nobody pushes through this area, despite this team basically being dead on this side. Yeah, bomber shot down here by the anti-air. Well, trying to be shot down over there by the anti-air anyways. Gunships jumping on top of the production center over here of the blue commander, who has, I guess, taken the base of the purple comm and just rebuilt with it. No air defenses here, though. Yeah, flak trucks are going to be the air defense for now. I think it's worthwhile. If you can't get units into the air, or it's not worth transitioning into the airplay, I think building a bunch of flak trucks is perfectly fine. You just spread those out all over the place, and they're so good at taking down those bombers, taking down anything, really. Oftentimes they can be better, actually. Big old nuclear missile is sent up. By the way, it looks like the tank commander launched a nuke. Will be intercepted by an anti-nuke, though, and so that's quite nice. A lot of frontline available here for nukage, I will say. The blue commander's sitting on a nuke, waiting for the right opportunity to use it. Yeah, these AA trucks are so useful. Look at that. Well, the bombers are kind of ignoring them, actually. The bombers are completely ignoring them. Oh, no. The bombers do connect with the base, taking down the build power, the E-converters, and everything else within proximity, including metal extractors. Oh, no. Yeah, that was a little bit of an unfortunate miss micro right there from Kaskorian, who I'm sure is worried about a whole bunch of different things right about this moment. One of which was not the bombers already headed towards the base. That's so unfortunate, because now you do have to deal with the fact that there's basically no production in your lane. Flak trucks are great, but they don't do well against ticks here. Flashman trying to hold the line. I'd love to see an LLT here to automate this process. There's now a couple of ticks leak in. Teaks lick in. That's what I was about to say. There we go. We do have some anti-air here. Yeah, it looks like there's an Archangel. An Archangel was eventually made and sent forward here. Archangel is such a wimpy unit. It's like a fart in the wind. It just kind of, it makes noise at the fighters, and if the fighters are feeling especially generous, they might not go down to it, or they might go down to it. 10TB takes a nuke to the face right there. The commander, the only thing left standing. Curious why we decided to nuke right there of all places, but anyway. Nuclear missile is away. Into the backline, but there is sufficient anti-nuke to eat that up. Do believe, yeah, one of these is going to eat it. There we go. Anti-nuke fires away to shut down that nuclear missile. Nicely done. And that will keep the yellow commander safe for a good long while. Proper scouting goes hand in hand with building one of those nukes. You have to have it. Oh, Cypher. Walking into the laser beams here of the Starlights that are marching forward, accompanying that tick spam. And I gotta give it to the red team here. They're being more aggressive on the map. They're utilizing their resources more efficiently. The blue team just keeps rebuilding and dying over and over again, not necessarily building all the right tools. And I have to say that 147 metal bonus is looking pretty nice here as well. The red team with large parts of their economy still intact, unupgraded to T2, but still intact. Easy to forget that if your opponents are building T2 mexes, even if you have 4 times the map covered, i.e. 4 times the metal extractors, They still have the same economy as you, so you have to make sure you upgrade those. It's a mistake that I've seen time and time again different commanders make, and it can be really, really devastating. Scouting plane here looking for open areas to nuke, and there is a couple of them. A nuke might clip the edge of the base right here for the powder blue commander, and of course a nuke on these front lines would be pretty devastating as well. Starlight's just pulling apart commanders left, right, and center. My goodness. Without the proper tools to shut this down, this really does become very, very difficult to stop. Ideally, what you'd have here is about 100 or so pawns that would sprint forward and jump on top of all these, but without the pawns, without the sharpshooters, without any of those units that can effectively counter these Starlights, they're uncontestable. They fire frequently, they do a huge burst of damage, and they're pretty long-ranged, too. At this point, the Aphis is in trouble. We're diving the Aphis with the with the Starlights, but that being said, those laser giraffes have more than enough range to beat those. Definitely one of the cooler units in the game. Love the look of the Starlight as they push forward here. No defenses available, and I think this game has been sealed. Ladies and gentlemen, with an overwhelming push, with phenomenal gameplay, and with tremendous aggression, it will be the red team that manages to break the blue team's spirits and economies here as the Starlights push forward. The last Aphis on the blue team does begin to fall, and Avenger K calls the GG vote. We have a commander waltzing forward here. The last commander waltzing forward. Down he goes, and the blue team does fall out of favor. The red team managing to claim victory in today's game of Beyond All Reason with some tremendous gameplay, showing us that they've got what it takes to stick through hardship and come out the other side just ever so slightly stronger, strong enough to win the victory. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you did enjoy, please feel free to like and subscribe and join the Brightworks community down below. Hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Hope your games are merry, and hope you have a wonderful time. And I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.